Welcome to the Via Stoica podcast. My name is Benny. I'm your host for today, and this is a Stoic Quotes edition. We're going to look at a quote from Seneca on one of his book on book 3 on anger. But before we start, don't get angry with me, but I would like to ask you if you wanted to like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, if it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching this on YouTube, and also leave a comment if you have some other insights and questions or some other topics you'd like us to address. Let us know and we can look into it. And also, if you are looking for some help with these things, for example, when dealing with anger or other stuff, you can always book a free consultation with us, and we can talk about it, about coaching or whatever we have possible for you to help you. So please reach out if you need some support or some help, and you can always have a nice free chat with us, and we can discuss things and help you get started. But let's go and look into this quote by Seneca. He talks in his book on anger how Aristotle looks at anger, and I picked out the last one. It said, "And indifferent to great endeavors," kind of like a multi-pronged approach for me, how I look at that small sentence. But if we look at Aristotle, as Seneca says, that Aristotle stands as the defender of anger and forbids that it be cut out of us. It is, he says, the spur to virtue, and if the mind is robbed of it, it cannot defend itself and becomes lazy and indifferent to great endeavors. Right. So there's a lot to unpack here, especially when we look at Seneca's view on anger. Seneca pretty much says that it's a momentary madness, and he says that we should not be angry. He has these three things that we first should cease to be angry, then first reduce anger, cease to be angry, then help others to stop being angry as well. So that's his take on it. But Aristotle says that we kind of need it, right? When we look at Aristotle, he talks about the golden mean, and he looks at that. He says that too little anger makes us become passive. Too much anger makes us become irrational and madman, if you will. But there is this level of anger that helps us, right? And maybe there's different definitions of anger, of the emotion. But the Stoics, they look at anger as one of the pathae, right? The pathos. Bad emotion. And what does that mean for the Stoics? A bad emotion, that means an emotion that takes you out of your rational mind, that reduces the reason and logic that we have to assess a situation and to make sure that we make the moral choice. And anger takes us away from it, right? Anger is pretty much us adding a value judgment on a certain situation, right? When we have something happen, we have the impression, and in that impression, if we then assent to it, and if it's a value judgment added there, we can become angry. So when Aristotle says that we need anger, the right amount of anger to help us achieve virtue, Stoics really deny that. They say that no, virtue is enough. We don't need anything else to be virtuous. We just need to be virtuous for the sake of virtue. And that's why when Aristotle says that we become indifferent to great endeavors without anger, Stoics would reply, like, what is a bigger endeavor than to be virtuous, to preserve your character and soul? And why do you need anger for that? Why do you need to be angry in order to do what is best for you? And we know that the Stoics believe in oikeiosis. It's the sense of self-preservation, that every person, every living being does what is best for themselves. So when we look at animals or even plants or whatever, they all do the things that help them preserve themselves, to procreate, to save themselves. For example, certain plants have thorns, animals that have sharp teeth or poison, and that's really what tries to preserve their species, their existence. And for us, we have evolved beyond that, right? Stoics, they say that we've been given this spark of the divinity of universal rational mind, right? We have been given this little bit of reason, and that helps us to preserve what is more important. And what is more important than us procreating a legacy? That is our character and our soul. That's really what it's about, right? To reach that eudaimonic state, the state of good spirit and character. That's really what it's about. And the Stoics says, like, I don't need anger for that. I need to do that because it's the right thing to do. And anger can actually take me away from it. It's such a contagious emotion. How often can you stop anger? And I've had some comments on some of my videos and some other views that say once you get angry, it's really difficult to stop, right? And I've seen it in other people. Once you get into that rage, to really stop you from there, it's easy to stop you from when you're being sad or when you have all the other emotions. But anger is really one of them that snowballs. And it doesn't just affect you, it can affect other people around you. So what we need to try to do is to stop it in its path. To once we sense that we start to get angry, and we can do so, right? We can do that by reflection and by really observing. Again, this is all about knowing ourselves, by observing our behavior with certain triggers, certain moments that put us in this state. And then we can identify at an earlier stage the feelings, the initial feelings of anger, of rage. We can feel those things boiling up inside of us, and that creates a little bit more awareness of who we are and when we start to progress into that emotional state. And at those moments, we can try to learn and apply that pause. We can put that pause closer to the trigger as we practice, right? This is not something that is easy to do or that can be done in an instant, but it is something that we can work towards. And that's what we really should try to do, right? So that's why Seneca says we need to reduce the anger, right? We need to, once we feel it, we need to start to reduce it. And our ultimate goal, whether it's possible or not for each individual, is to take away anger at all. And that helps us with underlying beliefs, and that also helps, when we start to identify what hurts us and how much we actually take upon that. So those things are possible, but we need to practice. We need to put the effort in. We need to recognize the fact that we have become angry, and if we do recognize it, that is the moment when we can apply the pause. But we don't need anger to be virtuous. We don't need anger. The lack of anger doesn't make us indifferent to great endeavors. As I put the quote out, it is the actual sense that we want to be the best person, that we want to have a good character, we want to have a good soul. That should be enough for us to pursue virtue, to live in accordance with nature, and to make that effort. And anger actually can keep us away from it. So when we talk about anger, it's an emotion a lot talked about, but it is something that will keep us from living the good life if we let it take over. And if we reduce it, you will sense how easy and how better your life will be. You will start to look at it from a completely different side, a more beautiful and more relaxed and hopeful way of living. And you will feel more at peace as well. So when I look at this quote, there's a little bit going before it, but indifferent to great endeavors, we need to first find out what is the thing that we're looking after, right? What are we going for? Stoics say that is to preserve and even to uplift your character and soul, to make it in line with nature, right? To make it beautiful, not any of the external endeavors that we often put in our path of what we need to achieve, but we need to preserve our character and soul, and we don't need anger for that. That should be a goal in and of itself with enough motivation to do so. So if you have any questions or if you're struggling with anger, please let us know. You can book a free consultation. We can help you identify the triggers. We can help you look give you some practices on how to deal with it best when it happens and how to reflect on it. But for now, thank you for joining us. Please leave a like, leave a comment, and we hope to see you in the next one.